The morning sun's harsh light. Marcus Reynolds sat in his corner office, the morning light casting long shadows across his sleek furniture. His desk, cluttered with reports and financial forecasts, was the battlefield for the upcoming war. But it wasn't the numbers that worried him. Marcus had long mastered the art of mergers and acquisitions. What gnawed at him now was something far more insidious, a prejudice deeply embedded in corporate America. He could almost hear the whispers of doubt echoing in his mind. "You sure about this, Marcus?" Linda Carter, his razor-sharp VP of Finance, appeared at the door, her keen eyes scanning him for any sign of hesitation. She knew that when Marcus was quiet, he was calculating. But today, the weight of the impending meeting with X-Corp felt heavier than usual. "I've done the math, Linda," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the frustration simmering beneath. "What we're proposing is solid. They'll listen to the numbers or they'll pay for it." Linda moved into the room, her heels tapping a soft rhythm against the hardwood floor. "It's not the numbers I'm worried about. It's Mills. That man's not just playing hardball. He's playing dirty. We need to be ready for him to try to undermine you at every turn." Marcus knew she was right. Richard Mills had built a reputation for crushing anyone who stood in his way. It wasn't just business. It was personal, especially when it came to someone like Marcus, a tall, powerful black man from a modest background who had earned his way to the top. The corporate elite still saw him as an outsider, and Mills would use that to belittle him at every opportunity. "You don't have to tell me," Marcus said, rubbing his temples. "I've got more to prove today than just our financial stability." Linda's voice softened. "You don't have to prove anything, Marcus. Not to them." He smiled faintly. "We both know that's not how this works." Before Linda could respond, the door creaked open again. Sarah Morrison, their no-nonsense corporate lawyer, entered, her presence commanding. She tossed a folder onto Marcus's desk, the thick stack of papers inside almost spilling out. "Everything's set," she said curtly, sitting down without invitation. "We have the leverage we need, but you're going to have to play this smart. Mills is arrogant, sure, but don't underestimate him. He'll sense any weakness." Marcus glanced at the folder, knowing it contained their lifeline if things went south. For weeks, he had been working in secret with Sarah and Linda, quietly purchasing shares of X-Corp in the background. If Mills pushed too hard, Marcus had the ultimate trump card, a majority stake that could turn the entire negotiation on its head. "I'm not underestimating him," Marcus said, flipping open the folder to review the latest documents. "I just need him to underestimate me." Sarah leaned forward, her dark curls framing her face. "He already does. But that doesn't mean he won't try to humiliate you in front of the board." Linda nodded in agreement. "The team isn't fully on your side either, Marcus. They've got their doubts. If Mills tries to make this personal, some of them might turn against you." Marcus stiffened, feeling the weight of her words. He'd sensed it too, the subtle glances, the whispered conversations when they thought he wasn't listening. Even in his own company, there were those who didn't believe he was the right person to lead this merger. The thought twisted in his gut, but he refused to let it show. "Let them doubt me," he said quietly. "By the end of today, I'll have given them something they can't ignore." Linda looked at him, her expression softening with concern. "Just don't let them push you too far. Mills will try to get under your skin, and if you react, they'll see it as a weakness." Marcus clenched his jaw. "I won't give them that satisfaction." As he spoke, David Thompson, his mentor and the man who had taught him everything he knew about corporate strategy, walked in. His entrance was quieter than the others, but his presence was no less imposing. A seasoned businessman in his 50s, David was one of the few people Marcus trusted completely. "You're ready for this," David said, taking a seat across from Marcus. His tone wasn't questioning. It was a statement of fact. "I've watched you navigate tougher waters than this. Just remember, it's not about who's the loudest in the room. It's about who holds the cards." Marcus nodded, feeling the support of his team, but also the enormous pressure that rested on his shoulders. This wasn't just another business deal. This was about respect, about proving to everyone who had ever doubted him that he belonged in this world just as much as they did. "Time to go," Marcus said, rising from his chair. "Let's give them a show they won't forget." The conference room at X-Corp was every bit as imposing as Marcus had imagined. The massive mahogany table stretched out before him like a battlefield, and the towering windows behind it framed the skyline of the city, reminding everyone inside who held the power here. Mills was already seated, his icy blue eyes locking on Marcus the moment he entered the room. The smug smile that curled at the corners of Mills' mouth was enough to tell Marcus everything he needed to know about how this meeting would go. He was expecting an easy win, and he was planning to enjoy every second of it. "Reynolds," Mills greeted him, not bothering to stand. "Glad you could make it. I wasn't sure if you'd actually show up for this." Marcus forced a smile. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Mills." The rest of the X-Corp team, a row of executives who looked as if they had been cut from the same mold, middle-aged, white, and self-assured, sat in silence, clearly waiting for the spectacle to begin. Marcus' own team filed in behind him, exchanging brief glances, but saying nothing. Linda took her place beside him, her eyes forward, and Sarah settled into a seat on the other side, her hands clasped in her lap. Mills wasted no time launching into a monologue about the realistic expectations for the merger. Every word was laced with condescension, as if Marcus' company were some charity case lucky to be in the same room as X-Corp. "As I see it, this merger is an opportunity for both of our companies to grow," Mills said smoothly. "But let's be honest, Reynolds. We're the bigger fish here, and there's only so much room in the pond. We're willing to give you a lifeline, but it's going to be on our terms." Marcus could feel the eyes of his own team on him, the silent pressure to push back. But he waited, letting Mills talk himself into a corner. This was the part of the game that Mills enjoyed, the moment when he believed he had his opponent beaten, even before the real negotiations had started. When Mills finally finished, Marcus leaned forward, folding his hands on the table. "We appreciate the offer, Mills, but we're not here for charity. We're here to negotiate terms that are beneficial to both of us." Mills chuckled, a low, patronizing sound that echoed around the room. "Negotiate, Reynolds? Let's not pretend this is an even playing field." Marcus remained calm, his face an unreadable mask. "I think you'll find that the playing field is more even than you realize." For a brief moment, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Mills' face, but he quickly smothered it with another smug smile. "We'll see about that." Marcus exchanged a glance with Sarah, who gave him the slightest nod. The moment would come soon enough, but for now, he would let Mills have his fun. The real battle was just beginning, and Marcus Reynolds was ready to show Richard Mills and the entire corporate world exactly what he was made of.